Summary of Kabuliwala by Rabindranath Tagore. The story Kabuliwala begins with the narrator providing a description of his daughter Minnie, who is 5 years old. Her mother often scolds her because she can't stop talking for a minute. On the other hand, the narrator thinks it's unnatural when Minnie is quiet, so he talks to her a lot and answers her many questions. One morning, Minnie talks to her dad while he is writing an adventure story. She looks out the window and sees a Kabuliwala called Rahamath. She calls out to him. But when he comes over, Minnie runs into another room because she thinks that the big bags he is carrying are full of kids, not things. A few days later, the narrator finds Minnie sitting next to Rahamath and talking to him while she has a pile of raisins and nuts on her lap. The storyteller tells Rahamath not to give her any more treats and gives him a half rupee, which Rahamath takes. Later, Minnie's mother scolds her for having a half rupee, which Minnie says Rahamath gave her. The narrator saves Minnie from her mother's wrath and takes her outside, where she tells him that Rahamath comes by almost every day to listen to her talk. One of the jokes they tell together starts with Rahamath telling Minnie, "Don't ever go off to your vorbai." Because the narrator and his wife are progressive people who don't keep talking to their young daughter about her future marriage, Minnie doesn't know what this means, so she asks him if he is going to his. Rahamath makes a joke by shaking his hand and saying that he'll settle him, which makes Minnie laugh. The narrator says that fall is when kings go on their world conquests, which tells him that he has never left Calcutta even though he wants to travel the world. He has a vivid mind and often thinks about faraway places, but he is the rooted kind of person who practically collapses when he leaves his familiar spot. Because of this, the narrator is happy to spend a morning just listening to Rahamath's stories about Afghanistan and travels. The mother of Minnie is very different. She is afraid of the outside world and thinks it is full of very dangerous things. She doesn't like how Rahamath spends so much time with Minnie, so she tells the narrator to keep an eye on him. When the narrator tells her there is nothing to worry about, she talks about the chance that Minnie will be taken and sold into slavery. Rahamath, on the other hand, keeps coming, and the narrator still likes seeing him with Minnie. Rahamath is getting ready to leave. He has to go all over Calcutta to collect money from people who owe him, but he always stops by the narrator's house in the evening to talk with Minnie. One morning, the narrator hears noise on the street and looks out the window to see Rahamath being led down the street in handcuffs. He or she is covered in blood. Rahamath tells the narrator that he got into a fight with a customer who wouldn't pay, and that while they were fighting, he stabbed the customer. Rahamath tells Minnie that he is being taken to his vorbai when Minnie comes out and asks him. Rahamath is sent to jail. Minnie quickly forgets Rahamath and makes new friends, first with the groom, who takes care of horses, and then with other girls her age. She stops going to her father's office, and the reporter says that he also dropped her. After a few years, the narrator and his wife are getting ready for Minnie's wedding. People are putting up things all over the house, but the narrator has locked himself in his office to be alone. Rahamath shows up out of the blue and tells the narrator that he got out of jail the day before. This makes the narrator think about what he did wrong and makes him nervous. The narrator tells Rahamath that they are busy and he will have to leave, but Rahamath asks if he can see Minnie. Again, the narrator tries to ignore him, and Rahamath gets ready to leave. But as he goes out the door, he asks the narrator to give Minnie some grapes, nuts, and raisins he brought for her as a memory of their past friendship. The narrator gets some money to pay Rahamath for them, but he refuses payment and tells the narrator that he came with his daughter in mind, not to do business. Rahamath pulls a crumpled piece of paper out of the breast pocket of his shirt and shows the reporter the fingerprint of his daughter, Parvati, that he keeps with him when he travels for work. When he saw it, the narrator forgot then that he was an Afghan raisin seller and I was a Bengali babu, instead realizing that he was a father just like I am a father. This makes the narrator change his mind about sending Rahamath away, so he calls Minnie down instead. When she walks in, she's dressed as a bride and acts shy and nervous. Rahamath tries to joke with her like he used to by asking if she's going to her vorbai, but Minnie blushed and looked away instead of laughing and asking questions. "My heart hurts," says the storyteller. When Minnie goes, Rahmat suddenly sees that his daughter, like Minnie, will have grown up and be different from the little girl he knew. As Rahmat thinks about Afghanistan and his daughter, the narrator pulls out some money and tells Rahmat to use it to get home. He tells Rahmat, "By your blessed reunion, Minnie will be blessed." Giving Rahmat the money means that Minnie's wedding party won't be as big as it could have been, but the narrator is happy with this because he thinks that the ceremony was lit by a kinder, more gracious light.
About the author. Rabindranath Tagore was born on May 7, 1861, in India, which was then ruled by the British. He was the youngest of 13 children and grew up in his family's home, Jorsunko, until his father sent him to Brighton, England, to study law. Tagore, on the other hand, quit school and studied Shakespeare instead before going back to India to marry Mrinalini Devi. Tagore started writing poems when he was 8 years old. 8 years later, he published it under a fake name. In 1901, he opened an experimental school in Santiniketan. Tagore kept writing while he was at Santiniketan. His poems, short stories, and songs quickly brought him more fame and respect. In 1913, he won the Nobel Prize in Literature and started traveling all over the world to give lectures and meet with some of the most famous people in literature, science, politics, and art, such as Albert Einstein, William Butler Yeats, Mussolini, Thomas Mann, Robert Frost, and George Bernard Shaw. In 1921, he founded Visva Bharati University, which is still one of India's most famous schools. Tagore went all over the world, visiting at least 30 countries on 5 continents. He died on August 7, 1941.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.